Good morning and welcome to all of you. We're thrilled by the turnout this morning, and I understand we've now beat the record for any other turnout for any other global cities around the country. So thank you for joining us, and I think we're going to have an incredible conversation this morning about both the power and the promise of this region. I want to thank Brookings, our incredible partner, for their leadership in this Global Cities Initiative. The chairman of Global Cities Initiative, former Chicago Mayor Richard Daley, is here. Thank you, Mayor Daley. You've been an inspiration for so much of our work. I want to welcome you as well. Before we begin the program, I want to just take a couple of minutes to underscore why our firm is putting so much of our time and our effort and our resources behind this effort. We are living, some of you might argue that we are rushing through an age of urban transformation. Our firm's chairman, Jamie Dimon, wrote just a couple of years ago that the future of humanity will be a story of cities. And I think it couldn't be further, it couldn't be more true. Our cities are expanding faster than anyone could ever have imagined. Just over half the world's population now lives in urban areas, and that will grow to 70% by 2050. 2/3 of our country's economic output comes from just 100 metropolitan regions. So any leader, any political leader, any business leader talking about economic growth has to be talking about growing our cities. And as a result of this, cities have now become the real most important centers of innovation, where partisanship is put aside, where political leaders are coming together with business leaders in the nonprofit community and the education community, just like today, to take control of their own economic future. Over the last 4 years, the Global Cities Initiative has worked with cities across the United States and around the world, providing some of the top data and research that Brookings produces to help them better understand their connections to the global economy. And even more important, to help cities understand their strengths as metropolitan regions. What we have seen time and again, and this is not rocket science, is that the cities that think of themselves as regions and tap into the regional assets are the ones that succeed in the global economy. The ones that put aside historical barriers, their geographic barriers, their political barriers, they're often social and ethnic barriers, to work together for a common cause. There's no greater example of this than Chicago and the work that Mayor Daley did over so many years, taking Chicago from what was called in the late 80s a backwater in the economy to now the fourth largest exporting city in the United States, the second most attractive city in the United States for foreign direct investment, and a city that's been called by Foreign Policy magazine as one of the top global cities in the world, alongside New York, London, Tokyo, Paris, and Hong Kong. What it shows you, this is not meant as an ad for Chicago, but what it shows you is a clear example of what leadership can produce. And what this initiative has embraced, what the Global Cities Initiative has embraced, is the need to highlight and promote the best approaches and models for success. How Chicago became a global city, how San Diego connects their universities with their high-tech sector. These are important lessons for Washington. The Global Cities Initiative now is connecting leaders around the world to share innovative ideas and practices, and we're so pleased that we have leaders from San Diego, Atlanta, and Toronto, Canada, who are here this morning, who have been part of this effort to talk about how they're working to capitalize on their region's assets and putting aside past differences. Here in Washington, which is in so many ways such a unique region, I have to tell you the truth. The divisions are not unique, and we hear them constantly, that the difficulty in bringing together 3 states and 3 jurisdictions. The fact is we've seen it done time and again. Louisville and Lexington, 2 great competitors, came together. Seattle, Tacoma, Everett, Washington, 3 competitors came together. San Diego and Tijuana, Mexico, two cities in two different countries, as the Post actually reported this weekend, came together in the name of regional collaboration to grow their economies. It can be done, and we need to do the same thing here in Washington. We need to come together as a region. We need to diversify, reduce our reliance on the federal government so we can grow our economy and compete globally. We have what it takes. While the world's economic map is clearly shifting very rapidly, this region is incredibly well positioned to succeed. We're now the sixth largest economy in the United States, the second largest technology sector outside of Silicon Valley, home to more telecom and satellite companies than any other region in the country, some of the finest colleges and universities, and 70%, I love this statistic, 70% of the world's internet traffic travels through data centers in Loudoun County. We really do have what it takes. We saw a tremendous example of the type of collaboration that's needed with the recent Olympic bid for this region. You had two governors, you had mayors, you had county officials, you had city officials, the business community, the philanthropic sector, all coming together in a common cause that would benefit this region. I'm thrilled. Tony Pierce will be with us this morning. He was a member of the Olympic effort in Washington 2024 to talk about how the Olympic effort came together and how that is an example of the type of collaboration that can make such a difference here. As Tony will tell you, the times demand a very new approach. The status quo doesn't work anymore. And frankly, as I pointed out to some of you yesterday, as the Miami Herald pointed out when we brought this Global Cities Initiative to Miami, we can no longer count on the federal government to come to the rescue. And this is particularly true here in the Washington region. Regions have to take control of their own destiny. And we couldn't find better examples of leaders who recognize this than our speakers this morning. Today's program is an opportunity to begin to look at the research and data produced by Brookings and to explore how our region as a whole, not just the public sector, but the business community, the universities, other institutions, can connect better to the global economy so we can grow this economy and, frankly, so we can have more inclusive growth in this region. We have a terrific program, and I'm thrilled David Rubenstein, who's the chairman of the Carlyle Group and co-chairman of the Brookings Institution Board of Trustees, and as so many of you know, one of the great champions for Washington, will be here to close the program. I couldn't think of a better voice to keynote today's conversation. Finally, let me once again just thank all of the speakers for taking part in this conversation, charting the next course for Washington, creating more jobs, greater opportunity for more people will clearly need a collaborative effort. And what we want to do today is to bring the lessons that we've learned over the last 4 years of this Global Cities Initiative to this region. We have seen this work in cities across the country and around the world, and we know it can succeed here. We truly have what it takes. So thank you all for being part of this conversation. I want to introduce the brains behind the operation, the great leader of this effort, Amy Liu, who directs the Global Cities Initiative, is the co-founder and co-director of the Metropolitan Policy Project at Brookings, and really one of the finest institutions and partners we could work with. So please welcome Amy Liu.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Peter. You know, we are truly lucky to have Peter, not only as a supporter and partner in the Global Cities Initiative, but also as a trustee of the Brookings Institution. And as you just heard, he is a true believer in the economic power of cities. And through the many hats that he wears, Peter has catalyzed enormous innovation in the urban field. Today, we are releasing a new report authored by my Brookings colleagues, Nick Marchio and Alan Berube, that examines Greater Washington's profile as a globally connected, globally competitive region. This analysis comes at a time when this region's business, civic, and elected leaders are exploring ways to position this economy for a more sustainable future. It's clear in talking to some of them that leaders are increasingly aware that status quo economic development is not working. So how does Greater Washington get past the competition for firms between states and jurisdictions and the heavy reliance on federal procurement? Our hope is that this new analysis will help provide answers to those hard questions and inform any new initiatives. So let me start with some context. Greater Washington is a strong economy. This 15-county tri-state metro area produces $403 billion in economic output, making this region the 6th largest metro economy in the United States and the 14th largest in the world. This region's leadership as a services economy is even more dominant. Greater Washington ranks 7th in the world in the size of its business, financial, and professional services economy, larger than Chicago and Beijing. So right out of the gate, Greater Washington is a globally significant city. And the region's economic wealth translates to household wealth. This region has a much higher median household income and a much lower poverty rate than the US as a whole. Yet there is another economic reality. Greater Washington's economy has stalled. In the last 4 years, this region's slow economic expansion placed Greater Washington 93rd out of the 100 largest metro areas. Output growth is projected to lag even further behind other metros by 2020. Where the federal government once cushioned the region from economic shocks, its belt tightening may now be a drag to short and long-term prosperity. The outsized role of the federal government and its spending, nearly 40% of the region's economy, may be contributing to the Washington area's economic malaise. So given this backdrop, I want to reinforce why global engagement matters, how this region is faring as a globally connected economy, and what lessons from other metros may serve useful here. So let me start with why global engagement matters. Effective global engagement consists of 3 intersecting assets. First is advanced industries. A region needs to be anchored by advanced industries if it is to prosper in the global economy. For advanced industries to grow, they must trade. They must sell products and services to customers, and in this global economy, those customers should be worldwide. The flip side of trade is inbound investment. Advanced industries can also expand by attracting foreign capital and foreign firms that are eager to be part of an advanced industries ecosystem. Think about Japanese supplier wanting to be part of Seattle's prized aerospace cluster. So advanced industries, trade, investment, they form the foundation of a globally engaged, prosperous global regional economy. So let me expand on the importance of each of these. So let's start with advanced industries. Now, to be effective on trade, you have to have good product, as I said. A region needs to be on the leading edge of product development and new discoveries. We call these advanced industries. They are advanced because they make relatively high investments in R&D, and they employ relatively high shares of scientists and engineers, we call STEM workers, who can translate that research into commercial applications. In a recent report, we found that the U.S. is home to 50 segments of advanced industries that cut across manufacturing, energy, and services. And the services listed here are ones in which the Washington region has a competitive advantage in, such as R&D, consulting, and software development. Now, because of their emphasis on the latest technologies, advanced industries contribute the vast majority of exports, patents, and private sector R&D in the nation, despite making up just 9% of all jobs. Due to their global leadership, advanced industries generate nearly 1/5 of U.S. output from this very small base. Advanced industries also generate good paying jobs, often offering wages that are twice as high as those found in other industries. Further, these jobs are accessible, with 1 out of 2 advanced industry jobs not requiring a worker to have a college degree. Now let's turn to the importance of trade. First, the economy is globally integrated and becoming more so. The bar chart here on the left shows how the volume of goods, services, and investments between countries has grown exponentially in the last 30 years. But second, global trade matters because the bulk of future global economic growth, 86%, will take place outside of the United States. Despite the slowdown in emerging markets, the IMF still predicts that the world economy will still continue to shift and expand. Now, exporting produces great benefits to a regional economy. It leads to higher levels of job growth, higher levels of output growth, and these are quality jobs. Exporting firms, whether it's in services or manufacturing, pay 20 to 17% more in wages than non-exporting peers. And going global is also good for businesses. Over the course of the Global Cities Initiative, participating cities have taken a keen interest in middle market firms. Middle market firms are those that generate from anywhere from $10 million to $1 billion in sales, so they have a proven product and the capacity to invest in market expansion. So across the board, middle market firms that were more likely to see their revenues expand and add jobs were those that sold products abroad compared to firms that did not. Research also has found that the more you export, the more you innovate. Firms that go global have to adapt to changing market preferences or are forced to strengthen their niche among global competitors. So this helps them move up the value chain. Now, the flip side of exports is foreign direct investment, which is also a key component of many regions' global trade strategies. FDI includes foreign-owned establishments that move into a market and the infusion of capital into a firm, either through global private equity or mergers and acquisitions. First, just like global trade, FDI is expanding worldwide, reaching about $1.3 trillion today. Meanwhile, the level of foreign investment in the United States has essentially stayed flat since the 1980s. So that means the US is just home to about 12% of global FDI, down from nearly half in the 1980s. There are simply more choices today for highly mobile firms and capital. Now, there are benefits from capturing more foreign investment if we take advantage of this rise. Like exports, foreign-owned firms in the United States create jobs, 5.6 million of them in 2011. These jobs also pay more on average than those found in domestic firms. But the real promise of foreign investment is that firms are major exporters and they are major investors in R&D, often bringing in new innovation and technologies to the US that we wouldn't have otherwise. Toyota, for instance, brought lean manufacturing to the United States. German firms like Siemens, BMW, Volkswagen, they brought a strong commitment to training and apprenticeships. Swiss pharmaceutical giant Novartis invested in a major medical research partnership with MIT, strengthening Boston's position as a hub of life sciences solutions. So in short, foreign firms can increase a region's innovation might. So how does Greater Washington fare then on these key factors of global growth and competitiveness? Our report provides indicators of the region's performance in advanced industries, trade, and investment, with skills and infrastructure included. Where possible, the report provides trends by county. It also compares the region to what we call your peer metros, which we have identified as those with similar size and industry composition. First, this region has a high share of jobs in advanced industries at 13.5%, putting you ahead of peers like Boston, Austin, and San Diego. Your advanced industry specializations are shown here in computer systems design, in engineering, in management, and consulting. And these advanced industries are found in every jurisdiction in the region. Yes, you can find these high-value jobs in the regional core, such as in Fairfax, DC, and Montgomery County. But advanced industry jobs are also found in Alexandria, in Prince George's County, and in others. Thus, advanced industries is a shared competitive advantage. But here is the challenge. Your advanced industries are highly dependent on one customer, the federal government. More than 2/3 of the revenues that advanced industries firms receive come from federal contracts, which are becoming less reliable. And business knows that if you're highly dependent on one customer, that's high risk. The bar chart on the right further reinforces the federal dominance. Most of the innovation capacity that drives advanced solutions, measured by patent activity, comes by far from the federal government, likely within the defense, intelligence, and health research sectors. Alongside innovation, access to STEM workers is a critical input for advanced industries. Yet, despite the highly educated workforce that the region is known for, this region suffers from having the right kind of skilled labor that matches the needs of a tech-savvy innovation economy. In fact, employers in this region have the hardest time finding or filling STEM jobs, even more so than the Bay Area and Seattle. And for all the world-class universities in this region, Greater Washington is not a magnet for foreign students. This, despite a region that regularly attracts foreign dignitaries and foreign travelers. Foreign students matter because they are an important source of talent in a global economy and because their attendance counts as a service export, bringing revenue into this region. On trade, this region is a major exporter, ranking this region 13th in the US in this regard. Most of that export income comes from business travel, tourism, technology, and management and legal services. So your sectors do engage abroad. The challenge is that this region is also a major under-exporter. Only 6.1% of your regional economy comes from trade, compared to more than 11% nationally. This places the Washington region 95th amongst the 100 largest metros. This region is simply not capitalizing on industry assets you have to diversify beyond the federal government and drive growth from new customers abroad. Now, the infrastructure you need to support a service economy is air travel. You're moving knowledge workers more than shipping manufactured goods on boats and rail. Interestingly, our data treats, you can see here, our data treats Baltimore and BWI as a separate metro area. So the blue bar in this chart shows that this region is a leading hub of international travel via Dulles and National. The additional white section of the bar includes BWI. The air travel destination gives you a good picture of where this region does business or where you may attract foreign tourists. A strong list that includes London, Beijing, and Tokyo. Now, when it comes to attracting foreign investment, this region fares better than the nation in the share of its jobs in foreign-owned establishments. But again, the concern is that the foreign firms you're attracting are not adding to your advanced industry capability. Only 1/4 of FDI jobs are in high-value sectors, ranking this region 50th on this score. Finally, let me talk about some lessons from emerging innovations in other metros that have been adopting concrete strategies to position their economies for success in the global marketplace. The one key shift that is happening in these markets is in response to this. You cannot grow your economy by focusing solely on business recruitment. The vast majority of job creation in states comes from existing firms and startups. Yet far too often, that 2% dominates economic development spending and attention. So business, civic, and economic development groups and elected officials in other markets are embracing exports as a key tool for business expansion. By doing so, these leaders are building stronger relationships with their companies, bringing real value to firms via new or existing services, and in the process, creating new inter-regional or intra-regional trust. Rather than poach each other's firms, leaders are working together to grow existing businesses in each of their jurisdictions that bring new revenues into the region and into their local tax base. So which regions are we talking about? Thanks to our partnership with JPMorgan Chase, the Global Cities Initiative is engaging 28 U.S. metro cities and metro areas and a few international ones as well, like our guest you're going to hear from Toronto. These places are at the vanguard of global trade and investment. These include markets as diverse as Atlanta, Houston, and Seattle. Now you're going to hear more about regional lessons from the next panel shortly. I just wanted to provide one example, which is from Portland, Oregon, which is a bi-state region. Today, Portland has an integrated exports and FDI strategy that is embedded into a larger regional economic plan. But let me just focus on the exports piece, which is where this regional effort began. Here is what I think is instructive of their effort. First, it was led by the private and public sector. The co-chairs of their export strategy was Intel, their largest exporter, and the chair of Metro, which is their version of the Council of Governments. A regional public-private partnership group, Greater Portland, Inc., served as the quarterback organization for this multi-dimensional effort. Second, its plan had 3 core strategies that shows the sort of the variation of interventions a region can develop. They wanted to leverage their primary exporting industry, computer electronics. But a company like Intel, they don't need help exporting. What they wanted were ways to improve supply chain networks and to clear up the bottlenecks in the freight network that hindered their ability to get to global markets efficiently. So the region is producing responses to address those challenges. Portland also wanted to diversify beyond computer electronics. So they packaged a suite of products and services from a mix of firms under the banner of We Build Green Cities. Sustainable land use design, planning and architecture, EV technology, clean energy buses and transit cars. And they packaged these so they can sell them to rapidly urbanizing cities in the globe. This matched their clear competitive advantage in a sought-after global niche with a substantive branding campaign. The result, Portland now has won contracts in Rio, the cities of Brazil, and in Japan, and because of their strategic planning efforts, Portland has won 2 federal grants, including a federal freight planning and implementation grant to act on the needs of their computer electronics industry. So let me close with this. This is the world image of Greater Washington, D.C., which is a concern, I understand, from area leaders. This is the global identity you can create. A global center of innovation, driven by the power of federal R&D, yes, and private sector entrepreneurship. A region that delivers leading edge technologies and services for commercial applications worldwide. Greater Washington has these capabilities, but leaders must shore them up, organize the firms and actors in these industries before meaningful marketing can take place. The path to getting there is messy. You can ask any regional leader involved in the Global Cities Exchange about that. But the hard efforts in regional collaboration brings rewards. Tangible short-term successes from firms securing new businesses abroad, and a broader cultural shift of economic development toward higher value growth that lays the foundation for lasting and widespread prosperity. Thank you.